FIT, flexible independent travel. Are you planning a complicated vacation in the near future? If so, stay tuned for some great travel tips from an experienced travel advisor. My special guest today is Lauren Matthews, an expert travel advisor with Cruise and Travel Specialists. Lauren has been serving the needs of her clients for the last 20 plus years. Hi, Lauren. Welcome to RTE Travel Talk.
Hi, Ken. How are you?
It's great to have you with us, Lauren. One of the most common comments and questions we get here at RTE Travel Talk is a request for advice and tips about people that are planning that next great vacation. Now, most of the questions we get are pretty straightforward. I'm booking a Caribbean cruise. How do I get from the ship to the airport and from the airport to the ship? These are pretty straightforward. But as you know, not all vacations are straightforward and can involve multiple destinations, complex itineraries, and tight timelines. Now, I happen to know that you specialize in FIT, or flexible independent travel. I thought today we could spend a little time and talk about your experiences, share some of the advice and tips that you use when planning for such an FIT trip. Just before we get to that, why don't you give us a little bit about your background in travel, Lauren?
So, I have been in the travel industry for 20 years. It was my first job, and I started out as a Girl Friday and just fell in love with the industry. So, I have done everything from marketing for travel to booking celebrities travel. At one point, I worked for American Express and I had 80 celebrities that I did all of their travel for. It was a great way to learn and a
Yeah.
very intense job. So, I have booked everything all over the world. I've been lucky to travel extensively because of this job. And yeah, I love learning about different places and I love helping people plan the perfect trip.
Wow. So then you definitely know what's involved in complex travel.
I've had dance crews of 40 people that I have to coordinate all over the country and get them there and back and everywhere in between. So yes, I've
Right.
done a lot of it.
Right on. So wonderful. So you were kind enough to send me process and the steps that you follow when you're planning an FIT trip. I was wondering if you could take a little time and review some of it. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Great. All right. So the first thing I see on the list is to set clear goals. What exactly do you mean by that?
I think a lot of people come to me, sometimes they come and they go, we don't know where we want to go. It's a big old world out there. So we want to make sure that we're really defining what you're looking for in a trip. Some people are, I want to lay around on the beach. I don't want anything, planned. Other people are like, I better maximize every minute that I'm there. So really just making sure that we are on the same page. We want to make sure that we're getting to the root of why you're traveling.
So obviously, after you've done that part, then the next probably most intensive part is the research destinations. That's number 2 on your list. So what does that entail?
So with us, we do a ton of research. We have partners all over the globe. So I always tell people that I can't be an expert in every single town and every single country. I have knowledge about a lot of places, but I also want to make sure that if I'm sending somebody to, let's say, Iceland, that I have a contact there. So I research and work with contacts all over the world that are not people that used to live there or who specialize in it, but are boots on the ground in the country. So I think that's my biggest resource, I would say, is talking with those people and making sure that we're crafting what to do now, not what to do in a book, 50 years ago. Like what is actually going on right now? What's, relevant and
Right.
what is exciting.
Right. Obviously, then, because you've been in the business and for 20 plus years and you have the
Mhm.
connections with preferred supplier partners all across the world, that's kind of a leg up as opposed to somebody trying to do a DIY, right?
I'm a DIY girl at heart. I
Yeah.
build furniture and have a farm and garden and do all sorts of things where I watch YouTube videos and I
Right.
figure it out. That's absolutely my personality. But it's really the best part is when people go, oh my gosh, we've never even thought about using a travel advisor. We've always said we can do it ourselves. We have the internet. And I
Right.
say, okay, that's great. You absolutely can there's plenty of things you can do yourself, but this is one of them that I am telling you, if you value your time, you will see so quickly that you don't have to spend days on the internet just comparing. I always say you can find differing opinions on anything you Google. And
Exactly.
so
And then
that's
you
definitely
don't know which way to turn.
exactly. And that's most
Yeah.
of the time people say, I can't I can't decipher this. I can't get through this.
Exactly. So now the next step that we move to that you sent is you create a logical itinerary. Now I get that. That makes a lot of sense because not everybody, I would expect your average person would know the timeframes that are involved in getting from point A to point B, right?
Absolutely. There's a lot going on with more than just mapping it out and going like, clearly I'm going to go like this, not like this, you know what I mean? And back and forth. And so a lot of people go, well, I can do that. I'm like, absolutely you can. But we want to make sure that you're making the most of your travel time, because most people, their time off is really precious. Whether you're retired and you're, spending time, this is your leisure time and you've waited and you've planned for this, or you're working and you're taking time off, or you have children and they're in school and you're taking that time, we want to make sure that you're maximizing your time. The other thing is that a lot of things that people want to do are not always open, and people don't realize that. So they go and they plan this trip, and then they realize that the day that they're going to be in that town, oh, everything's closed. I can't go to that museum on a Sunday. It's not open. And
Right.
now they have to piece it back together. And so that's where we really make sure that we're maximizing your time and you don't end up somewhere and think that you've got a plan and then you don't.
And when we think about maximizing time, there's also absolutely the travel time that's involved in it. That's another step that I see. Actually getting to and from, right?
People will be like, oh, okay, so I'm off the 20th, so we'll start there. And I'm like, I mean, maybe if you're going an hour away, like
Yeah.
that might work. But most people, especially with most of our clients being in the United States, if we're going abroad, it usually takes a day to get there, or 5-6 hours, and you have to settle in. So yeah, we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that we're ending up places at the right time and not showing up a day late or early.
Exactly. So for somebody thinking to consider doing this on their own, you need to make sure you allow enough time on the front end and the back end. And one of the things that I've always seen is knowing connection times in these various airports.
So I specialized in air for many years. So
Yeah.
I have a background where I know the computer systems of air and Sabre and all of those things. And it's really funny how sometimes it will show as a legal connection, is what they call
Yeah.
it, right? So it's a legal connection. Let me tell you about my legal connection at Charles de Gaulle, where they bust us like 4 different places. And by the end of it, and we had, I think, an hour and a half. And by the end of it, I was yelling at my 6'4" husband, because I'm 5'4", to run to the plane because he was faster and I was out of breath, to like hold the plane. I'm not like in amazing shape, but I'm also not, older or
Yeah.
have any mobility issues. There's absolutely no way that somebody could make that connection if they
Yeah.
were a little
No,
worse off than me.
I get you. It's always amazed me looking at the connections that you can come up with online and knowing the airports as you and I do. Yeah, you can maybe do it, but boys, oh boys, just like you said, you could be running.
Or your flight comes in 20 minutes late, and sure, it's a legal connection. And what that means is that the airline will protect you. And
Yeah.
that means that they have to get you to your destination sometime. There's no
Could-
guarantees that
Yeah.
there's a flight next hour. It could be the next day.
Yeah. Or next Tuesday.
Yeah, or yeah. Ugh.
Accommodations. Book your accommodations early. You tell me. So what's your advice on that?
Some people think that there's, value in waiting, and sometimes there can be. But I will say that most hotels and most suppliers that we work with, if the price comes down significantly, we can adjust that before final payment. But you will always have the best availability the earlier out you can go. Now, of course, they usually don't sell until a year in advance, so you can't go too far out with some hotels. With cruises, it's a little bit different, but with hotels that we're talking about, it's about a year. But I always tell people, let's just get it nailed down as early as we can, and we can tweak it as time goes on. It's a lot easier for me to negotiate a rate drop than it is for me to have them, build onto their hotel to accommodate you.
No, exactly. Prioritize activities.
Yeah, so like I
Tell
mentioned, yeah, some people are really into activities and some people are not. And so we
Right.
want to make sure we are getting a good balance, but also setting realistic expectations. Because if you try to do too much,
I would bet, and I could be accused of it really, that people doing your own planning, you have a tendency to cram too much in.
mhm,
And then when you get there, it is go all the time. And A, it's not very relaxing. And B, part of your trip is making memories. But if your memories are that short because you're just whizzing by everything,
Your memories
maybe
are screaming at each other to stay on the schedule, and
yeah,
that you're late for this or that. And that's the other thing that people don't take into account is the time that it actually takes in some of these attractions that they'll go to wait in line to get their
yes,
tickets. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
we always try to get people to skip the line. We get private tours, things like that, because I will literally say, like, this is $100 more and we can get you to the front of the line. Now that you might go, oh my gosh, $100 for a line. Well, the line wraps around the Vatican. Okay. So now how do we feel about it?
you
Like,
just you just took the words out of my mouth. In
yes.
Rome, that I you experienced that firsthand. A mile and a half line.
And you
And
have to be dressed nicely because you're going to the Vatican. I will
yeah,
never forget, I wore high heels because I was apparently I was like 19 and stupid. And I wore high heels and I thought my feet were going to fall off. I really did. I was just like, well, I'm dead now. I think most people don't even count like lunch, right? Like,
right.
whereas, okay, you won't die without lunch, but like, you're in a foreign country. Wouldn't it be nice to sit down and like have lunch and a glass of wine or, sparkling water, or whatever you want, and take in the scenery? Or do you want to like be trying every McDonald's in Europe because you're running around like a crazy person?
Yeah, exactly. Plus the fact that travel advisors know these little hidden gems. I can think of a
Absolutely.
particular little side restaurant in Rome. We had dinner there one evening, and it was just something right out of a movie. There was a ruin kind of like across the street. A violin player came by playing the theme from the love theme from The Godfather.
Oh, I love
just,
it.
just
Yeah.
a
Yeah. I've got
and
my
those are the kind of experiences you always take with you, right?
Absolutely. I've got my
Yeah,
favorite rooftop bar in Prague, and I've got a lot of spots in London because I studied abroad there and
yeah,
spent way too much time at
yeah.
bars and restaurants while I was there. So yes, we absolutely have recommendations. And that's a nice thing too, is because we have our team of travel advisors, we've really covered the globe. So if I haven't been to a particular place, I'm like, hey, where'd you go? What was your favorite thing? Where did you wish you had gone or skipped, or, and
Yeah.
we really bounce ideas off each other.
The next on the list is stay organized. That kind of
Mhm.
goes without saying, but tell me a little bit about that.
It depends on how you like to stay organized. I always give people the option and usually end up giving them both. So it would be a paper itinerary as well as an app that we use, the Access Travel app. And
Right.
so we will put everything into that. So you can, it has, destination guides that you can look at. It has your flight information, your hotels, your transfers, your tours, tips for the country, things like currency, language, simple phrases, things like that. And then, of course, we have like your insurance policy linked on there so that you can grab that easily if unfortunately you need to use it. It's a really great tool because people can access it really easily on their phone, but there also is the paper version that you can print out, like the PDF version that you can print
Yeah.
out.
So you can go high tech or old fashioned.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of documentation, obviously you need to obtain the necessary documentation for a complex trip, if especially if you're traveling abroad. What's
Yeah,
your
so
best advice on
we
that?
yeah, so we will advise you if you do need any sort of special visa, depending on the country you go to and how to obtain that. Some are done beforehand, some are done at the airport. It really just depends on where you go. The other thing that we are really stressing right now, because after COVID, of course, but you have to have 6 months past the date of travel validity on your passports. And most people will argue, then why do we have an expiration date if it's not really good? But that's the country that you travel to
Yeah.
has different rules on
Yeah.
how long they need you to have your passport, because if something happens to you and you have to stay in their country, they want to be able to get you out of there. And we do have different providers that can help you if you need to expedite it. Obviously, there's fees involved with that, but when you're looking at your trip and you can't go if you don't get this done, then we can make it happen. We've gotten passports in as little as a day
Wow.
with this company. And then there's also passport offices at different large cities around the United States that you can go sit in, but now they require appointments. But we handle all of that.
The other thing I see down towards the end of our list here is travel insurance. And that kind of
Mhm.
goes without saying, but what's your best advice on travel insurance?
We do recommend travel insurance.
Yeah.
COVID has made it really apparent that we cannot see the future, and that even if you're the healthiest person and you don't have kids that are going to cough into your eyeballs and make you sick the week before your trip, that you still don't know what's around the corner. And I will say that we were in Europe last year and we had a group of 40 people, and about half of them got COVID. And so what that meant was the United States would not let us fly back, and we had to stay for an extra 5 days. We had to see a teledoctor to get diagnosed with COVID and then prove that we had waited the amount of time in the contagious period so that we could fly home. We were staying at a hotel at the airport in Zurich, which is one of the most expensive cities on the planet. I think our airport hotel was $500 a night, and when you're talking 5 nights, that's $2,500. That's not food, that's not entertainment, that's nothing. You're just $2,500 to sit in an airport hotel. So we helped everybody get through everything and file their paperwork and made sure that everyone was taken care of. But that is always my biggest thing is you don't know what's going to happen. And also your medical insurance might not cover you outside of the country, or quite frankly, it might be a big headache to get it covered. And so the policies that we sell have primary medical coverage, and I would say 90% of our clients take travel insurance.
Right. And also, you mentioned you were traveling as part of a group, so it's also a great thing as part of a group to be traveling with an experienced escort or travel advisor like yourself, in case things like that do happen. It makes the process a whole lot easier. And with a travel advisor, even at home, you've got an advocate in your corner if the wheels fall off on some part of the trip or the other, right?
Oh, absolutely. I always say to people, like, you can call, text, email me, Skype, WhatsApp, whatever is working in the country that you're at, and I will take care of it. That is a huge relief to people, because it's not that you're going to call a 1-800 number and you're going to have somebody and you're going to go okay, my name is John Smith and I'm stuck here. And I already told this other person that, and can you look up my file? It's like, Lauren, okay, here's what's happening. And I'm like, all right, let's figure this out. So it's a personalized experience 100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the last thing on our list, and I can be accused of overpacking, is pack smart. What's your best advice on packing these days, Lauren?
I went carry-on to Cairo for 10 days. And if I can do 10 days carry-on, so can you. It's an art. I think people need to understand that you really don't need a billion choices. It should probably be more focused on the experience that you're having than the clothes that you're wearing. I mean, unless you're going for a fashion shoot. Obviously that's different. But I always tell people and most countries too, if you forget a little something, it's not hard to grab it while you're there. But really roll your clothes, get a suitcase that has a nice big bag that you can put on top of it and slide the handle through, and a little clutch bag if you're a woman, so you can take that out with you. And just don't overcomplicate things. It's not the end of the world if you forget, a sweatshirt or something, or something gets stained. You'll figure it out. It's not the end of the world.
I can identify. I'm a reformed packer. Just like you, Deb and I went carry on to Jordan and Egypt last year. And it was great.
It's nice. You don't need all that stuff, and lugging around a giant suitcase everywhere is nobody's idea of fun.
No. Well, Lauren, this is really super information. Is there anything else you'd like to advise people before we wrap up?
I appreciate you talking to me about this. I do think that it is something, like I said, that is coming up a lot more. The demand for travel has never been higher in the 20 years. I think everyone can agree we were cooped up, and so now we want to get out. And I think that it's really a good idea to talk to a travel professional and use our brains just like we use other professionals for things that we don't know how to do. I really like working with people that will listen and trust my advice and who are interested in the process. It's a really fun job, and I love being able to help people plan these trips and then see them year over year. And so we can continue to build that relationship and really get to know what they like. It's a cool industry for sure. And it's a lot of fun.
And on something like this, it's a worthwhile investment to actually hire a travel advisor to plan this trip for you, right?
Absolutely. We do charge trip planning fees. We're very upfront in our first conversation. So we'll do a consultation and talk to you and then tell you the fee. It really varies based on travelers, time, location, things like that, complexity. And I always joke that once you pay this, that's when you can call me anytime, all the time, text me, email me. And people are like, I'd pay that just to talk to you, just to ask you any question I have. Like that's
Perfect.
and so we do that up front, and then after that we just put the proposal together and we're on our way. So it's just a very seamless process.
Excellent. So if folks wanted to reach out to you, Lauren, about a possible FIT vacation, how would they do that?
Absolutely. So call or text is 503-449-7461 down there. And my email address is lauren@cruzholidays.com. You can go to our website too and fill out a form. But really, if you want to get a hold of me, those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me personally. And I will be happy to talk to you and see if we can work together.
Excellent. Excellent. So tell me, where are you off to next? I know that's part of the job. You have to travel the world to learn about stuff.
Have to, yeah. I'm actually escorting a soccer group or football for the rest of the world to Ireland and Scotland in September. It's a group of men that play in a club, and we're going over to Ireland and Scotland, and we're like basically pub hopping slash playing games. They're playing matches throughout the two countries for 10 days. And then I'm flying over to Croatia, and I'm getting on a private, like we chartered a yacht
Right.
with 38 people, I think. And we're doing a week in Croatia. So I'm going to be pretty busy in September. I'm excited.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. We'll have to have
It'll
you
be
back
great.
to regale us with your adventures pub hopping in Scotland and Ireland. Sound like a plan?
Sounds great. Love it.
All right. Well, with that, Lauren, I really appreciate your time today. I'm just going to wish you safe and happy travels on all your future cruises, adventures, and vacations. And I hope to see you sometime soon on a Lido deck.
My pleasure, Ken. Thanks for having me.
Take care. And that about wraps it up for today, folks. A very special thanks to my guest, Lauren Matthews of Cruise and Travel Specialists. If you'd like to reach Lauren, I will leave her contact information in the description. If you'd like to reach us with a question or a comment or a suggestion for a future video, you can send a question to questions@realtravelexperts.com, visit our website, realtravelexperts.com, or simply leave a comment. We always respond. And as always, folks, if you enjoyed this content, a like, subscribe, and a ring of the bell is certainly appreciated and helps us to spread the word. So until next time, happy travels.